Hello everybody, I'm back. Sorry. Hello everybody, I'm back. Back in the wild. I'm back in our neighborhood park. It's a beautiful day, the sun's out. A lot of people out right now. And so I kind of wanted to make a video about this place being a very special place for me. And I also wanted to use this video to sort of talk about a very important game. Just bear with me for a second because I am going to talk about video games, but I promise that it won't be about the nerdy stuff. It's not going to be nerdy. So I just want to kind of talk about something that's been on my mind. You know, I grew up playing video games, and death is a very important part of the video game loop, especially with games like Mortal Kombat, Legend of Zelda, Mario even. And you don't really think about it, you know, it's just kind of part of the game loop. You die, you try again, you get a little bit further, and then you die, you try again, and eventually all those deaths lead to a victory. There's even a name for this kind of game, and it's called roguelike, where the whole point is that you're supposed to die over and over and over again in order to get more things, more levels unlocked, yada yada. And I was talking to a friend, and they asked me what was a meaningful experience that I had because of video games. And there's so many experiences you can have with video games. You can build a city, you can build a roller coaster park, you can legitimately fly an airplane. But what I launched into was Cyberpunk 2077. Okay, so this part is going to get a little nerdy, so before you click out, please just hit the like. Hit the like. So for people that don't know, Cyberpunk 2077 is a game from CD Projekt Red, who were famous for their Witcher series games, in which you're a sort of grand warrior going around killing ghouls and werewolves and goblins. And this was a third-person game, meaning that you got to see the character.
Here, your frying pan.
Mine? But mine were black with soot.
And they came out in 2020 with a brand new game, with a brand new character called Cyberpunk 2077. And instead of being a third-person character where you can see, this was a first-person character, which is from your perspective. They even mentioned it in the rollout where they wanted it to feel so much more immersive, so instead of being able to see the character from third person, it puts you in the character's perspective.
Cyberpunk 2077 is a first-person role-playing game. This perspective enables us to maximize your immersion.
Should have full access in 2.8 seconds.
And this was a very effective move, because early on in the video game, and there's, this is technically not a spoiler because it happened in the marketing as well. They made like this flashy little cutscene of what happens in the first act. But if you want to play Cyberpunk 2077, this is just a general spoiler warning. If you want to hear my thoughts about how a game touched me, let's keep going. So in the marketing material, they had this really flashy video of, this great moment, this great scene where everything falls apart and you get out of there with your friend, Jackie. And it's very glitzy and very flashy, and you get to see both of the characters' perspectives, and then, the character of Jackie dies. And the main character, that's supposed to be you, watches him die, and it's a third-person perspective. And so what's the big deal? Death happens all the time in video games. In the Mortal Kombat series, it's so glorified that it's the best part of the video game, is how they kill you. Some games even taunt you after your death to sort of encourage you to get back up and get back in the fight.
What? You survived everything I ever threw at you only to die now like this?
But I want to talk about what doesn't usually happen in video games. And that is that when you play the game and you go through this moment and Jackie dies in your arms, from your perspective, you've built sort of a rapport with this guy, and you've pulled off one of the biggest heists, and he dies in your arms.
It's gonna be all right. You'll see Misty, your mom, everyone you love. Jackie, don't close your eyes.
Misty, she knew. She always knew.
That was a legitimately moving experience of having to see this character that is so charismatic and has so much fun and makes the first part of the game so interesting basically fade away. Days later, you're asked to come into a bar and talk with Jackie's mother.
The Nice to see you.
She tells you she's preparing an ofrenda.
An ofrenda? What's that exactly?
Friends and family. We gather to celebrate the departed, our memories of them. And we bring things they loved in life and might need in the after.
I want you to go into the garage where all of his things are and pick something to offer for his funeral.
Thanks, Mama Wells.
When you arrive at the garage, you find his girlfriend, Misty, sitting outside.
Ivy,
What are you doing here?
lately I've just been coming here to sit. An hour, sometimes two. I know it's gonk, it's just... I miss him.
She's been having a hard time with Jackie's passing, and she's just sitting there waiting for him to come back.
Hardly gonk at all. Just... well, human.
And so you sit and you listen to her, and you listen to her talk about their love story, and you get a different perspective about Jackie, who, from your perspective, he's this firecracker who has a lot of charm and has a lot of wit and is very brash. But from Misty's perspective, is a lot quieter and a lot more caring.
Mama Wells is having a send-off for Jackie. I need to find something he really cared about.
Mama Wells and I aren't exactly on the best terms.
And she lets it slip that Mama Wells and her aren't on the best terms, and that she doesn't really want to go into his garage. But you convince her, and she comes in anyways. And the garage is full of big and little things that Jackie owned, and each one you scan, Misty will tell a story about it.
Love to poke around engines.
He was 15 when he first got on a bike.
Knowing him, it is a miracle he never wiped out.
Some can be a little embarrassing, and some can be really touching, and some can be things that Misty and Jackie shared together.
For whom the bell tolls. Ernest Hemingway.
Jack read it a dozen times. Always right before a big job. He said the guy who wrote it was tougher than Morgan Blackhand.
You read it? Is it any good?
I never got the chance.
It'd be a good tribute for the Ofrenda, though.
With every new story about these mundane things, I began to think about my friends. And if I were to go into their garage, or into the garage of their life, what would I bring to the ceremony that represented them the most? What would I choose? What would they choose that represented me? Would I go by where they used to be and sit around and wait for them? And would they come to where I used to be and sit around and wait for me? Would another friend show up? Is it better to be prepared for these things, like death, or should we push them out of the way and just hope it doesn't happen and act when it does, on instinct? You have to choose the thing you bring, and you have to choose the thing you say to these characters. And none of these characters are real, really, but you still have to choose what to say.
When you go to war as a boy, you have a great illusion of immortality. Other people get killed, not you. Then, when you are badly wounded the first time, you lose that illusion.
And you still have to walk and put something there. And one of my favorite things about this game is that they really take this part seriously, as serious as a funeral would ever be. And they really show a lot of respect to Jackie, and the way they presented the ofrenda I found to be very cool, futuristic representation of an old Mexican cultural thing. And you can choose to help his friends and family pick up the pieces. And I say can because one of the most consequential choices is after Jackie dies in your arms, you could send his body to the doctor, or you could send it to his family.
He'd want to be with his family.
And if you choose the doctor, his family doesn't ever have his body, and there is no ofrenda.
Took care of Jackie's body?
I thought you knew.
What do you mean?
Arasaka. They swooped in, dug their claws into him.
What? Where'd they take him?
Not sure.
And there is no burial, and this quest never even gets to happen. And how can this not happen? Well, that's because the Ofrenda isn't part of the main story. It's a side quest. It's something you have to choose to do. Even if you send Jackie's body to Mama Wells, you can choose never to call her back, never to step foot into that bar, never to meet all these friends and family. You never get to talk to Misty about Jackie. You have to stop doing all the cool stuff that this game excites you and entices you to do, and instead slow down and think about this character and think about their death and think about their life and be with their family in this fictional funeral that you sit there and make a speech at. Something about this game really builds a connection to the characters and a curiosity about what happens when you do these things, when you press these buttons, when you go down these roads, and when you get is real responses to real moments. At the Ofrenda, you talk to Jackie's mom, Mama Wells, and you let her know that she should give Misty a chance. She was very important to Jackie.
She was very important to him. Do you understand? Go. Invite her along for dinner. It's the least she deserves.
And days later, you can even call her and...
I did like you said. I invited her over for dinner. She's a little bit eccentrica. She's a nice girl. We exchanged numbers.
After we said goodbye to Jackie, she invited me over. We talked for a while. I think Miss Wells is using me to avoid thinking about her son's death.
And so you begin to see that, families are difficult and different. Trying to put them back together can often make cracks in other places. That was just sort of a good reminder that not everything, especially not in Cyberpunk, neatly closes in a nice fairy tale ending. I'm grateful video games are there to sort of introduce me to this idea of making sure I'm prepared and making sure that I appreciate my friends while they're here and my family while they're here. And when the time comes, how to honor them, be there for the people that need it, and step up. No one wants to think about death, obviously, but it has helped me ask questions about life and about closure. Cyberpunk 2077 is by far my favorite game I've ever played. Even with all the glitches, even with all the rough starts, I've loved this story, I've loved these characters, I've loved the world, and I think it's always been a masterpiece that was broken. And so many of those stories have really resonated with me. I kind of want to keep talking about the stories of Cyberpunk, but that story of Jackie and his mom has always been there, and it's always left a huge impression on me. I think games like that are important to tell stories that put you in a difficult position, and it isn't just right or wrong. You can be good or you can be bad. It's how will you react when it is bad, and what will you do, and what will you say, and how will you follow up. This is my favorite park. I spend a lot of time here, and if I ever go, I want people to be here to just celebrate me a little bit. Okay, enough boo-hooing. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. I'm gonna do a couple more videos with the channel. I'm just gonna keep doing these. I've had a lot of big life things happen, so I'll update y'all on that. But for the most part, I just kind of wanna keep making them in a steady pace. But it's just me, so I'm just kind of going back and forth, trying to make them interesting, and yeah, we'll see how we do. All right, peace out.